I rise this morning to speak about an important plan to protect Americans' consumers. Specifically, I call on the Senate to pass the tough new reforms of the credit card industry. I've been working for months with my colleagues on the Senate Banking Committee to write this important new legislation. I'm proud to have played a part in Chairman Dodd's bill, the Credit Card Act. This bill includes legislation that I introduced last year to outlaw what is called universal default. That's the term given when the credit card companies raise interest rates on customers if their credit scores fall for any reason, even if those customers pay their credit card bills on time. They may call that universal default, but where I come from in Montana, they call that a ripoff. This reform legislation puts common sense and honesty back into the credit card industry. It will establish a new set of standards at a time when hard-working, honest folks are getting squeezed in this tough economy. Simply put, Montanans are not happy with the credit card companies. All of us are getting fed up with hidden fees, high interest rates, and confusing small print. Every day, I get calls and letters and emails from folks back home who want the Senate to take action to rein in these predatory practices of the credit card industry. I have here in my hand a few of those examples. The first one is from a man in Belgrade, Montana in Gallatin County, and he writes this, and I quote at length: "These institutions have bilked us. They took the bailout money and had no qualms about undertaking more irresponsible actions to loot the American taxpayers and consumers again. I will use myself, a small business owner, so small that you might call us a nano business, as an example. 4 or 5 months ago, we hit a bump in the road and got behind with our credit card company. Knowing that this is going to be a temporary situation, pending the closing of a sale of some property that we owned, I stayed in at least weekly contact with our credit card company to keep them informed and assured that we had every intention of meeting our obligation, which we did. What happened next is almost unbelievable. My interest rate was increased to over 27%. I was charged various fees for being late that amounted to over $1,100. What really made me feel ripped off is that I had been a cardholder with that company for the last 26 years. Madam President, I'm all about personal responsibility. Folks need to make good decisions on their purchase obligations, but plastic personal debt can be very dangerous and addictive. Ordinary Americans can get in over their heads very quickly, and that's why the Senate needs to pass common sense legislation to protect consumers from abuse. Another lady wrote me from Glacier County, Montana, and said this: "I hope you'll be willing to stand up to the banks when it comes to credit card regulation and oversight that the consumers need. In our home, we just saw interest rates on many of our credit cards jump for no reason. How are we supposed to be participating in an economic recovery when our cash is being siphoned off for these unfair charges? You have a chance to do something about it." She went on to say, "I hope that you will." I too hope that we will. I hope that the Senate will pass the Credit Card Act. This bill will ban universal default, the jacking up of interest rates even when the account in question is in good standing. It will protect consumers who pay their bill on time by outlawing interest charges on debt paid on time. It gives the consumers another week to pay their monthly bills, and it limits fees and penalties. It ensures that cardholders will know the small print, and it protects young Americans who are often most vulnerable from predatory practices by the credit card companies. I voted against the Wall Street bailout because handing bags of money to big Wall Street bankers and hoping the money would trickle down to Main Street small businesses and working families made no sense to me. Now we see some of the recipients of taxpayer bailouts jacking around the regular working folks who make this country run and who are having a hard time in this difficult economy, brought on by mismanagement here and by crooked deals on Wall Street. Madam President, it is important to note that not everyone in the banking industry is guilty of gross exploitation of the American consumer. But the bad actors on Wall Street and the credit card companies need to be reined in, and the rights of the regular public need to be protected. I am pleased that President Obama had the credit card executives down to the White House the other day to encourage them to treat the consumers fairly. I call on the Senate to step up to the plate and deliver meaningful legislation that will put in place common sense consumer protections.